Hello and welcome back to another Tool Tech Tuesday with JIMS. This will be a two-part series. Today we'll be disassembling this twin-cam cruise drive 6-speed transmission, which belongs to Jeff, one of our channel members. We're doing an engine build for him, and he felt it would be a good idea to go through his transmission as well and freshen it up. I'll explain how transmissions work, show you a couple of common failures associated with the cruise drive transmissions, and of course, showcase the JIMS tools that it takes to do the job. Also, you'll be the first to see two new transmission rebuild kits just released by JIMS that are going to save a ton of time and money. In part two, we'll assemble the transmission and go through the inspection process of each of the components. So let's get to it. Transmission failure can be due to several things other than just gear teeth breaking. Over time, the parts inside can wear, which prevents the dogs from fully engaging, causing the transmission to slip. Bearings can fail or become loose, and of course, general wear over time can just make for a noisy or sloppy transmission. In many cases, the gears, the shift forks, the drum, and the shafts are in reusable condition, and the transmission simply needs a basic rebuild. That's where the new JIMS rebuild kit comes in. This saves me a ton of time. Instead of sourcing over 50 individual pieces like the clips, the locks, the gaskets, the bearings, all of them sold separately, it's one part number with everything needed in one box. Now, during your rebuild, if you found that you needed gears or other hard parts, of course, those can be sourced separately. All the tools to do this job, as well as this brand new kit, will be listed in the video description, so be sure to check that out below. Harley Davidson has used several types of transmissions over the years, but we're going to focus on the 6-speed cruise drive that was first introduced on the 2006 Dyna models. Then it became standard equipment on all twin-cam models in 2007. The M8 cruise drive would follow virtually the exact same process to rebuild I'm going to show you today. So now let's get to work and take this thing apart. Now, before I tell you exactly how a transmission works and how to go through and inspect and diagnose some of the potential problems you might have with the transmission, let's review real quick what we use to take the transmission apart. First off, it's JIMS main drive gear puller and installer kit, part number 900. You can see it had everything in it that I needed to get the main drive gear out. also to put the main drive gear back in. The other thing we used was part number 989-2, which is the main shaft sprocket nut remover. And I also want to go through the kit. Again, the purpose of tearing this down is to rebuild the thing. We'll inspect the individual gears and see if there's any other parts that needs to be purchased. Now, the kit, again, has absolutely everything you need in it to do a basic rebuild on the transmission. Everything from the main drive gear, all of the clips, all of the bearings, all your secondary shaft bearings, the individual bearings for each gear. It even has the oil pan gasket in it, your trap door gasket, your trans case to engine case gasket. It's an incredibly comprehensive kit. There are more than 50 individual pieces in this thing. It has everything you need to rebuild the transmission, and it's part number 1056, again from JIMS, all in one box, which is fantastic. The transmission consists of 2 parallel shafts supporting 6 gears each. The longer, or the main shaft, also supports the clutch down here and serves as the input shaft. The shorter shaft is called the countershaft. You may have heard the term constant mesh transmission, which means that each gear on the main shaft is in a constant mesh with the corresponding gear on the countershaft. Now, this design eliminates the need to speed match the transmission to the engine before shifting, like you found in older transmissions seen in heavy trucks and such. Each of these 6 pairs of gears make up a different speed in the transmission. The gears are divided into 2 types: gears that rotate with the shaft and freewheeling gears that ride on bearings and spin freely on the shaft like this, versus your freewheeling gears. A gear that rotates with the shaft always meshes with a freewheeling gear. Also, 3 dog rings are able to slide sideways on the shaft. These dog rings, which you would find here, are used to change the transmission speeds. The dogs basically are these teeth that I can show you here in the main drive gear. We remove it. The dogs are basically these teeth here on the side of the dog rings. Those would engage on the inside of these slots on the inside of the gear. They're engaged on adjacent freewheeling gears. They transmit power through the transmission as they slide back and forth and lock into place, and basically that's how your transmission transmits power. Now, gear shifting is accomplished by these forks, here, here, and here, 3. The forks ride in grooves that are inside the dog rings here, and those slide on the guide hubs back and forth, moving the gear. Now, the position of the shifter forks is controlled by the shift drum, which spins when you use the shifter. That would be here, and you can see how your shift forks move back and forth. Now, if this is your first time rebuilding a transmission, I highly recommend grabbing a piece of cardboard, laying out all the gears and labeling them so it'll be easier for you to reassemble. Inspect each of these dog rings as well as the dogs here and the mating areas in the adjacent gears. The edges should be sharp, show little indication of wear, and if you find that they're rounded off a lot, it may be a good idea to replace them. Also, look for loose fit or wear in these dog collars and also on the forks. If they're worn too far, they won't allow full engagement of the gear pairs when it slides over between gears. Now, of course, at this stage, we need to remove all the gears from the shafts and the bearings and then clean everything. Now, in part 2, we're going to reinstall all of those bearings in the gears, slide this gear set back together on the bench, then install it in the transmission case. Be sure to subscribe. Hit the reminder bell selecting all notifications so you won't miss part 2 of this transmission rebuild series with JIMS. Once again, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other. Have a good one.